Caution! The following video is an in-depth review of the movie I'm currently reviewing, which means that there will be massive spoilers in the review. If you haven't seen this movie yet, then please feel free to watch this movie first before watching this video. However, if you have already seen this movie, or you just want to know my thoughts on this movie, then keep watching. When I first started out doing movie reviews for my channel, I didn't have a clue about how I wanted to set up my movie reviews, or what I should actually be talking about in my movie reviews. All I know is that I wanted to give out my opinions about the various movies I have watched and to do the best I can to recommend some movie titles that I felt were worthy of being seen by the mass audience. I also wanted to give my personal opinions about how I felt about each movie and how each theme and plot were being presented in each film. However, while I did try my best to explain about what I liked or hated about the movies I watched, I felt that I wasn't able to give out a more in-depth analysis of the films I reviewed because either I was trying to not go over the time limit during the time where videos were only allowed to expand to 10 minutes per video, or I was afraid of spoiling so much of the movies I reviewed that everyone watching these reviews would cry foul and refuse to watch these movies because I would have just spoiled the whole thing for them. But in doing so, it made the review seem so disjointed because I would be explaining the pros and cons of the movie at the beginning of the review, and then explain the spoilers towards the end of the review, and since the spoilers can be from any scene of the movie, it made my reviews jump all over the place in terms of organizing a coherent narration for the review. So, similar to my revamp of my rant series, I had decided to make a new review series called Rabbitearsblog's Reviews 2.0, where my movie reviews would now be in more depth than my first set of movie reviews, and this will also give me a chance to revisit some movie reviews that I had done in the past and give them a makeover. And what better way to jumpstart this new series than start off with revisiting the very first movie review I had done, The Nightmare Before Christmas. But before I get into this review, I would like to warn everyone that because this will be an in-depth review, there will be major spoilers. So, spoiler alert. The Nightmare Before Christmas was a stop-motion animated film that was made in 1993 and was the first fully animated movie that was directed by Henry Selick. It is good to note that a common misconception about this film was that many fans believe that Tim Burton directed this film due to the film being called Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. An interesting fact about this situation was that Tim Burton was originally supposed to direct this film, but wasn't able to due to him directing Batman Returns at the time, and he ended up handing the reins to Henry Selick, while he oversaw the production of the film. However, it is also interesting to note that the reason why the film was called Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas was because this movie was based off a poem that was written by Tim Burton himself. Sort of like how some films that are about Dracula tend to say Bram Stoker's Dracula due to Bram Stoker being the author of Dracula. Also, this was one of the few animated films to be put under the Touchstone Pictures banner, since Who Framed Roger Rabbit due to the dark undertones explored in this movie, which will be touched on later in this review. However, that has changed over time ever since this movie became a cult classic, and Disney has regained the rights of the film, even featuring this film in their Kingdom Hearts video game series. Jack Skellington is known as the Fear Pumpkin King of Halloween Town, and every Halloween the citizens of Halloween Town will come up with various scares to show up on Halloween. But one day, Jack found himself becoming bored with doing the same activities every year, and he wanted to find something different to do. Jack then ends up walking through the woods trying to figure out his predicament, when he ends up in a strange clearing where a group of trees each have a different holiday symbol embedded on the doors. Jack then finds one of the trees having a Christmas tree symbol embedded on its door, and he decides to go inside the tree to find out what is behind that door, and when Jack discovers the magic of Christmas hidden inside the door, he becomes extremely excited and wanted to share this news with the citizens of Halloween Town. It was then that Jack decided that he wanted to be Santa Claus that year, and he has the citizens of Halloween Town create toys for all the little girls and boys that he would deliver to on Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, Sally the rag doll who loves him had a premonition about Christmas becoming a disaster if Jack takes over, and even though she tried to warn Jack about this impending doom, Jack refuses to listen to her and proceeds with his plan, which ended up having disastrous results for both Jack and Christmas. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a truly creative and unique animated film that manages to not only give us fascinating and creepy visuals of the citizens of Halloween Town and the world they live in, but it also gave us an intriguing story about how it's important to not let your overexcitement of a new activity get the best of you. Rather than be the stereotypical creepy skeleton guy, Jack Skellington is both charismatic and optimistic, which makes him into a likable character even after he nearly ruins Christmas with the horrific presents he delivers to the children. I like the fact that Jack Skellington is not being portrayed as a straight-up villain who wants to take over Christmas for selfish reasons, since it's rare that we see the protagonist cause trouble in the storyline due to lack of understanding the situation he or she is thrown into. The movie does a good job at portraying Jack Skellington as a truly friendly character who only caused the conflict in the film due to him getting too overexcited at the prospect of running Christmas and not taking enough time to actually study what Christmas is really all about. It made Jack Skellington into a much more complex character because while he had the best intentions in mind, his lack of understanding Christmas did indeed cause problems for the children around the world. His lack of understanding Christmas came from the fact that he lived in Halloween Town for many years, decades maybe, and the only thing that he and the citizens of Halloween Town were familiar with was the ability to scare people, and so they believed that Christmas and Halloween were the same things in terms of still scaring people by giving them terrifying gifts. The movie also explores the dangers of getting into an activity that you are not familiar with and possibly causing problems for yourself and others if you do not spend the time studying the core concept of that activity. For example, say that a person has been doing construction work all of their lives and they want to try something different like cooking. The person goes and tries their hand at cooking, but because they are not familiar with how to prepare certain ingredients or read certain labels, such as possibly mistaking a pack of flour for a pound of flour as big as a cement bag, they could possibly mess up the recipe they are trying to make due to not taking the time to study the core basics of cooking. This is pretty much the same situation that Jack Skellington got into when he tried to take over Christmas and become the new Santa Claus for that year. I like the fact that Jack is never shown as being malicious in his attempt to become Santa Claus. Even though the only questionable thing he did was kidnap Santa Claus, he only did so because he wanted to try his hand at Christmas and see what it was like. And it was clear towards the end of the film that he felt great remorse for causing trouble for both Santa Claus and the children of the world, and he eventually tries to make things right again towards the end of the film. Sally, Jack's love interest in the film, was a pretty interesting character in her own right. She is shown to be a very shy yet determined character who tries to stop Jack's attempts at trying to be Santa Claus, since she had a vision that Jack's Christmas would end in disaster. I like the fact that both Jack and Sally actually have a lot in common with each other. During the song Jack's Lament, when Jack Skellington was singing about how he feels empty inside because he has been doing the same activities all of his life, that is scaring people, and he wanted to do something completely different, Sally stated during the song that she knows exactly how Jack feels. Now, I'm assuming that what Sally meant when she said that was that she also feels empty inside, possibly due to not being able to confess her true feelings for Jack, and even thinking she is unworthy of Jack's affections, which is beautifully stated in her song Sally's Song. I like the fact that Jack and Sally develop a connection with each other due to both of them wanting something more out of life, and even though I felt that there weren't enough romantic moments between Jack and Sally to really sell their relationship to me, I still enjoyed the few scenes they had together. I am a bit curious about Sally's relationship with Dr. Finkelstein. I understand that Dr. Finkelstein was the one who created Sally, but the nature of their relationship remained ambiguous throughout the movie. One interpretation of their relationship is that Dr. Finkelstein serves as a stern father figure to Sally, who usually prevents her from going out to the daily activities of Halloween Town because he feels that she isn't ready for such excitement. And Sally is shown as being the rebellious daughter who wants to do what she wants despite what her father figure tells her. Another interpretation is that Dr. Finkelstein could have created Sally as a female companion, as evidenced towards the end of the film, where Dr. Finkelstein had enough of Sally constantly running away from him, and he decided to create another female companion that is more to his liking, and was even more evidenced by a deleted alternative scene of Oogie Boogie's unmasking, which turned out to be Dr. Finkelstein who wanted revenge against Jack for taking Sally away from him. Though I'm actually glad that the film didn't use that scene and went for a more alternative route with Oogie Boogie's unmasking, since it would have ruined Dr. Finkelstein's character at that point. The way I see it, I personally think it's a combination of both. Dr. Finkelstein seems like a stern father figure who doesn't want Sally to go out due to not wanting to expose her to such excitement, which is similar to a worried parent not allowing their teenage children to go out partying since they don't know what kind of dangers their child could get into because their children may not be prepared for the unexpected situations that could stem from parties. On the other hand, I can see Dr. Finkelstein viewing Sally as a female companion, since it's implied that Sally usually prepares the soup dishes for him, and there was a scene where Dr. Finkelstein tells Sally that she belongs to him. Of course, he could have meant that because he built her, she automatically belongs to him in that manner. Now let's talk about the villain of the movie, Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie was a pretty interesting and unique type of villain. For a movie that mostly has a haunting yet cheerful atmosphere, here you have a villain who is the opposite of the cheerful citizens of Halloween Town. Why the citizens of Halloween Town scare people for fun and never harm anyone, which was pointed out in the song This Is Halloween, that while it's their jobs to scare people, they are generally nice people. Oogie Boogie contrasts that by being the only citizens of Halloween Town to actually harm people, which is best exemplified towards the end when he tried to dip Sally and Santa Claus into a snake and spider stew. The only problem I had with Oogie Boogie's character was that I felt that he wasn't developed enough, and it seems like they just threw him into the movie so that the movie could have an antagonist. I wish that I knew more about Oogie Boogie's backstory and why he became the antagonist he is in the movie. And even though there has been some material released that explains a bit about his and Jack's rivalry with each other, I wish that the film had explored that aspect of his character a bit more, even if it was just a small line in one of the songs in the movie. Now, as for the fact that it seems like the movie just threw Oogie Boogie in there just to have an antagonist, there are two sides of the situation that I see with this. On one side, if Oogie Boogie wasn't featured in this film, I think that there would still have been some conflict in this movie, which would have been centered around Jack's efforts to deliver toys to the children, except for the fact that the toys that he delivers are either scary or dangerous for the children, and it would have caused so much turmoil for both the parents and the children in the real world. On the other hand, if we didn't have Oogie Boogie in this film, then not only would we not have an awesome fight scene between him and Jack Skellington, but we wouldn't have a character who contrasted everything that Jack stood for. Jack Skellington is shown to be a charismatic yet misguided character who did cause some harm, but unintentionally, and he was really remorseful for it. Oogie Boogie, on the other hand, purposely puts people in harm's way just for the heck of it, and he had no remorse for his actions. It would have been quite interesting to explore the different ideologies of both Jack and Oogie Boogie in this movie, if the movie wasn't so short in running time. The songs were quite impressive, as they did something that I rarely see happen in most musicals, and that's having the songs themselves move the plot along. Usually whenever I watch some musicals, some of the songs featured in the musicals wound up being big lip alligator moments in the film, or a song number that has nothing to do with the plot of the film. The Nightmare Before Christmas was a unique case where a good majority of the songs actually contributed to the plot of the story. For example, you have the song Jack's Lament that explains about Jack feeling empty inside because even though he spends each year scaring people, he wanted to do something different, and he feels that he has to search for that special something to feel whole again. Then immediately after the song ends, Jack goes out into the woods and stumbles upon Christmas Town, which kicks off the main plot. It is really telling that a song not only explains about the characters themselves, but also progresses the plot at the same time. I also love how versatile Danny Elfman was with both providing the soundtrack to the movie and also providing the singing voice for Jack Skellington himself. Danny Elfman's vocal talent sounded so haunting yet beautiful at the same time, which fits so well with the movie's haunting and gorgeous atmosphere, and I think that his singing fits well with Jack Skellington's character, as Jack is shown as being a creepy character who is also elegant in personality. The Nightmare Before Christmas is rated PG for some scary images. Now, I do actually agree with this rating, as there are some scary imagery in this movie, especially in detailing the appearances of the citizens of Halloween Town, and I was even terrified of these images when I was little. However, I will admit that the positive side of the scary imagery in this movie is that we get to see an actual representation of what Halloween creatures would look like if they weren't toned down to look more child-friendly for the younger audience. The scary imagery also helped give the film a nightmarish quality, which is the point because the film is called The Nightmare Before Christmas. Overall, I'm giving The Nightmare Before Christmas a perfect score of a 10 out of 10. Even though I had my reservations about some of the characters not being fully fleshed out, this movie is clearly one of the most imaginative films I have ever seen, and even though there is some scary imagery that might scare some smaller children, I would highly recommend this movie for the whole family to watch. Hope you enjoyed my review of The Nightmare Before Christmas.